you've got to get to a different mentality. As a survival, you have to do things that sometimes that you were not accustomed to.
Hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life.
Good, beautiful morning. It is a chilly morning here in South Mississippi. Welcome to the Max Farm. We don't have chilly days in April, and it's been a pretty chilly day. If you're new to the Max, please go down here, push subscribe, ring the bell, because there's always something fun happening here on the farm, and we'd love to bring you along for the journey. Is there a food shortage coming? No, there's no food shortage coming. The food shortage is here. So today we're going to talk about things that you could be doing to survive the crazy food shortage that is already here and the inflation in this world that's going to kind of bring us to our knees as America. So it's time to just be thinking outside the box and making sure you're taking care of your family in every way you can.
We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. You and I, we got it. We don't need no
First and foremost, you need to be growing your own food. You need to have gardens growing, no matter if you're growing on an apartment balcony or you're growing 10 acres. Making sure that you're doing all you can to grow your own food, because when you grow your own food, the seeds are a lot cheaper because nothing's been processed on it other than buying the seeds. And again, we have a Hoss Tools link below. You're welcome to look at those, but you can go to your local co-ops, your local feed stores. Heck, you can even go to Walmart or Home Depot. Not saying you need to buy all your seeds from those places, but you can buy them at supermarkets too. But you need to be growing your own food, because ultimately, if you take the cost out of the labor in it, you take the cost out of doing the work and adding the fertilizer, and then turn around and package it in a supermarket, you've now got food at a very, very good price. First and foremost, you need to be growing your own gardens, and you need to make sure that you're doing all you can to learn the optimization of the garden. Don't grow something that don't grow in your area. Here in the South, you don't need to be growing cold weather crops in the spring and summer months. We don't have cold weather, so you need to be growing things like peas and legumes. You need to be growing things that's got a lot of protein, a lot of fiber that can help your body. You can grow corn, you can grow sweet potatoes, you can grow things that are optimizing in your area and making sure you're learning as much as you can for your zone. Optimizing your garden, growing your garden, number one. You need to be doing that, because that will help not only put food up, but that will help making sure you're taking care of the inflation. When you're growing food right now, it's going to be cheaper than 6 months from now. So understanding number one is not just growing the garden, but understanding optimization in your garden, what grows better in your zone, and learning all you can and gaining wisdom, very much so, for your gardens.
Understand and sway together. Now it's almost like a dance.
Number two, you need to be raising some kind of protein on your farm. If it's a vegetable protein, that's okay. But what I'm really talking about is animals. Understanding the value of having animals on your farm or in your home. You may not can raise sheep or cattle because you don't have the acreage. That's okay. You can raise rabbits and chickens, and rabbits and chickens are a great source of protein. They eat very minimal, and also they can live a lot off your farm and what you're growing with your gardens. As we talked about with gardening, if you're growing gardens to take care of you, you can also grow gardens to take care of your animals. Most of our animals eat 80 to 90 to 100% off land. The only animals that are not is some of our pigs who could live off land, but again, we're growing them to get pork chops, to get bacon. But if worse comes to worse and we're not wanting a major egg production, or we're not wanting these big fat hogs, they can live strictly off the land that we're raising them on, such as our ruminant animals, such as sheep and cattle. If you can't raise those big animals, as I said, rabbits are a game changer. We made a video, and we'll link it right here, that basically shows how you can raise rabbits, and they're a game changer for a small farm or small home or a small area that you're growing in. Even in subdivisions that you can grow, they're not loud, they're not messy. You can utilize their compost, their manure, for the fertilization of your gardens. Then your gardens can turn around and feed you and the rabbits. That's awesome. Understanding the value of the animal on the farm and making sure that you know that you can have a protein on farm. You can also feed them with the gardens, like we talked about growing the garden. So you have number one and number two go hand in hand. You can do one without the other, but why don't you do one and two, and it allows you to benefit on both ends. Building your protein with the gardens that you're growing, but the gardens that you're growing are turning around and using the fertilization from the protein source, such as the rabbit and chicken. So understanding value is not just optimizing gardens and having a garden and learning a garden. That's awesome. Then let's add protein, let's add that meat source. How can you grow meat on your farm? Be innovative. If you can't grow it on a farm, grow it in your subdivision. Rabbits are very, very quiet. Using the rabbit to turn around and add fertilization, because food shortage makes for inflation, makes for fertilization be expensive, making for ways to grow your food expensive. But if you're using rabbits, you're growing them with the foods that you're growing, turn around and using their manure to put back in those gardens, that is huge. So now you've got one, growing gardens, optimizing gardens, saying that food is an investment because inflation is skyrocketing. And if you start growing food now, then that means it's going to be cheaper than what it is 6 months from now, because you can preserve it, put it up in the freezers, put it up in cans. And there's a whole nother video for another day, but we'll link some of those up here about canning meat, because it's awesome. Number two, understanding the protein that you can grow that can feed your garden, but also your garden can feed them, which will provide you a good protein source for the times to come. Because steak, beef, chicken, all this stuff that you're buying from the grocery is skyrocketing. It is so expensive to buy meat in store. If you're growing your meat source on farm, I promise you it's a lot cheaper than buying it in the store. Number three, and probably the most important for every person that is watching this, is buy in bulk. Go to Costco, go to Kroger, go to Walmart, go to Fresh Foods, go to Whole Foods, go to Sam's, wherever you buy your food and your groceries, and stock up. This mentality where people are like, oh, I don't know if people are going to judge me, they're going to call me hoarders. Forget what people think about you. Buy a lot of food and make sure you're taking care of your family. That's all that matters. Understanding that you need to put water up, you need to, if you're buying romaine noodles and ramen noodles, you're buying Spam, tuna, whatever you want to buy, that's great to have, and you need to have those emergency foods. But you need to buy quality food too. You need to make sure that if you're buying noodles, buy 2 sets of noodles. If you're buying meat, buy bulk meat. If you're buying rice, buy bulk rice, because again, ultimately you're taking care of your family. If you're not growing gardens and you're not growing animals, you need to be buying food in bulk, way more for sure. Now let's stop just for a second. You need to buy from local farmers. You need to buy a half a steer. You need to buy a steer. You need to buy a half a side of pork. You need to buy a pig. You need to buy rabbits or chickens, or you need to buy vegetables from your local farmers. But until you can, or until you get on that list, or until that season comes around, you need to make sure that you're putting up all the food that you can, using Mylar bags, using food grade storage, using anything, any means necessary, containers of any sort, wrapping those foods up and making sure that you're putting it up, you're buying in bulk. Because when you're buying food, for instance, we buy a lot of bulk foods. When we bought food before this Ukraine war, or before the season came for wheat, you were buying flour about 20 to 30% less than what it is right now. Understanding the value, because that flour now is an investment, because the sugar you're buying is an investment, because the corn you're buying is an investment, because ultimately it's going up. So buy in bulk. Understand that food is now a commodity that is an investment. It's actually worth sometimes more than your money when you talk about inflation, because your dollar is not going up in value right now. But that food that you have in your pantry, that peanut butter you have in the pantry, the rice, the flour, the sugar that you have in your pantry, is actually an investment, and it's going up in value, and it can save your life. Recap it. 1, grow gardens, grow whatever you can, grow in pots, grow in any kind of makeshift garden containers, anything you can. If you're growing on a balcony or you're growing 10 acres, grow food and optimizing your grow zone, understanding what does best in your area. Number 2, please look into animals. People think, oh, I can't
raise animals, I can't kill animals, I can't raise them and sell their babies.
You've got to get to a different mentality. As a survival, you have to do things that sometimes that you were not accustomed to. That's the things we lost in America. We forgot how to grow food, and we need to grow food. We need to grow animals, because ultimately those animals provide for us, not only for the food and protein, but they're providing for our gardens with their fertilization of the manure. Gosh, it's a game changer, guys, growing protein and growing some kind of food. If it's a cow, sheep, or if it's simply a chicken or rabbit, grow your own animals and protein for your family. Grow, grow, grow. Number 3, buy in bulk. Gosh, I cannot push this enough, because ultimately it's way cheaper to buy now than it is 5 months from now. It's way easier to get food right now than when the next pandemic comes. It was a lot cheaper to buy food 6 months ago before a war happened. All that, no matter what government, no matter what your politics are, you need to be taking care of your family, and these are just some of the ways that you can do it. Guys, please be encouraged to know that you can do this thing that we call homesteading, modern homesteading, prepping, survivalship, whatever you want to call it. Ultimately, it's protecting your family and knowing the value of that. God bless, guys. Hope you enjoy our content. Please go down here, tell me what you think, give me your comments. Either you like it or you don't. Let us know what you're doing on your home, your farm, your apartment, and ultimately how you're taking care of your family. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.